اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد. خل المقادير تمضي لا تغالبها، فإن من غالب الأقدار مغلوب. إن القضاء لسيف لا يقاومه شيء من الخلق إلا وهو محبوب. وامشي رويدا مع الأقدار في مهل، فإن من يكره الأقدار متعوب. سلم وفوض لحكم الله محتسبا، فإنما الأمر مقضي ومكتوب. والله يقضي بما شاء وكيف يشاء، والعبد عبد ومخلوق ومربوب. ولم يزل ربه الرحمن يكلأه، باللطف والحفظ محفوف ومصحوب. حسن ظنونك بالرب الكريم، ولا تسيء ظنا فتبقى عنه محجوب. واعمل لنفسك أعمالا تسر بها، فكل ما يفعل الإنسان محسوب. إن كان خيرا فخير سوف يحصده، أو كان شرا فتنكيل وتعذيب. يا ويل من ضيع الأعمار في زلل، وكل من كسبه الآثام والحوب. واطلب علوما مع إقبال مع عمل، فأنت بالعلم والأعمال مطلوب. واحذر زمانك هذا إنه زمن، به المناكير شاعت والمعايب. فكن وحيدا فريدا خاملا حذرا، فإن فيه الأقاويل الأكاذيب. والظلم فاش بلا لوم ولا نكر، وللمساكين تخويف وترهيب. فكن لبيتك حلسا لا تفارقه، إلا لشيء له في الشرع تصويب. واذكر إلهك ذكرا دائما أبدا، فالذكر بالذكر مقرون ومصحوب. وذاكر الله يجالسه، فاجلس مع الله تأتيك المواهب. واطلب من الله ما تحتاج أجمعه، فالخير يا ذا لديه والمطالب. لا تسأل الله كريم الوجه خالقنا، فعنده الفضل والإحسان مسكوب. واعكف على بابه في كل ما نفس، فإن نسيانه يا صاحبي حول.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Alhamdulillah, we begin our lesson in the Fiqh of Imam Hanafi, in the book of Nur Idah. We pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless in this lesson and make it a reason for forgiveness in of our sins and answering any of our prayers, inshallah ta'ala. Ameen Ya Rabbal Alameen. So in our last lesson we were speaking on the rulings pertaining to istinja, and we mentioned any istinja is sunnah, and if it is more than one, if it is the size any 1 dirham, and it becomes wajib. Anything that is more than 1 dirham, and it becomes fard. So this is basically the rulings in the Hanafi madhab, which is different from the rulings in Shafi'i madhab with this regard. So since we are going through a book in Fiqh Hanafi, so this is what the author mentioned, that if any istinja is within the openings of the private parts, it is a sunnah. But if it's more than that, the size 1 dirham, it is wajib. Anything that is more than 1 dirham, it becomes izalatun najasa. That is fard in the madhab. So there is a difference also between wajib and fard. I have explained this before this. Wajib in the Hanafi madhab, it means that the dalil or the evidence behind the obligation is based on dhanniya. It is based on dhanniya. Whereas when we say a fard, it is based on yaqeen. Dalil is based on qat'iyya. So now we will go from where we have stopped. In our last lesson, this is where we stopped. The author speaks about al-mubalagha fi tanzif. Yani when a person wash the private parts, it is a sunnah that a person washes the private parts hatta yaqta'a ra'ihat al-kariha, until he is able to remove the pungent smell. Wa fi ikha'il maq'adati in lam yakun sa'ima. Yani if a person is not any fasting, then a person washes the private parts in a state where the private parts are stretched, unless if a person is fasting because of the fear that water can enter into the private parts. فَإِذَا فَرَغَ غَسَلَ يَدَهُ ثَانِيًا. Then the author mentioned that after he finishes, then he washes the hands, because there might be a possibility there is some najis on the hands. وَنَشَّفَ مَقْعَدَةُ قَبْلَ الْقِيَامِ. And he wiped the water that is at the near the private part area in kana sa'iman. And I explained this in the last lesson, because this is again out of fear that the water enters into the private part. Enter into it. For men, for example, enter into the anus. So the excess of the water around the anus might enter. Although the Hanafi scholars, some Hanafi scholars mention this is almost impossible, but it can happen. So that is why it is recommended to wipe the area around the private parts. So this is just some revision. Today, inshallah, we will continue from here. He mentioned here fi tamami ahkam al-istinja. So this is some rulings on istinja, as an addition and completion. So number one, he mentioned la yajuzul kashful awrati lil istinja. It is not permissible to expose our private parts when doing any istinja. This is in the case if there are people around us. If there are people around us, it is not permissible for us to expose our private parts when we are doing istinja. So we have to cover up in a situation where there are people around us. Number two, وَإِذَا تَجَاوَزَتِ النَّجَاسَةُ مَخْرَجَهَا. This is what I mentioned in the beginning of the lesson earlier. This is a situation where the filth goes from its makhraj. So makhraj is the private part, like the anus or the head of the penis. So if anything that goes overboard, وَزَادَ الْمُتَجَاوِزُ عَلَى قَدْرِ الدِّرْهَمِ, to such an extent that it goes over the size of 1 dirham. The size of 1 dirham. لا تصح معه الصلاة إذا وجد ما يزيله. The prayer will not be valid if a person does not cleanse himself. The prayer will not be valid if a person does not cleanse himself, because now the ruling is for him to wash the part where the najasa is in. Because here the author earlier he mentioned that istinja is sunnah, but it's sunnah if the filth is only present at the openings. It doesn't go overboard. But here if it goes overboard more than 1 dirham, then it becomes fard. Anything that is within 1 dirham is wajib as what we mentioned. So the prayer will not be valid because the istinja is not valid. وَيَحْتَالُ لِإِزَالَتِهِ مِنْ غَيْرِ كَشْفٍ عَوْرَةِ عِنْدَ مَنْ يَرَاهُ. So this thing again about exposing the private parts is, he mentioned if a person for example is in a place where there are people around him and the people can see him, then he will say that closing the private parts becomes wajib. and it is compulsory upon him to remove any the filth, without removing any exposing any of his private parts. This is in the regard, again, if there are people around that can see. So now this form of removing any of filth and washing any of the private parts, it is compulsory, even though there are people around, and it is also compulsory upon him at the same time to cover the aura. So here it is, he's saying that it is not permissible for a person, for the sake of istinja or izalatun najasa, removing any of filth, that he covers he exposes his private parts. That is not permissible. Then he speaks about the things that are makruh in istinja. He said, wa yukrahul istinja'u, number 1, bi'admin. Yani if a person uses bones, it is not permissible based on the hadith. The Prophet ﷺ prohibit us using any bones for istinja, because these are the food for the jinn. Ikhwanina minal jinn, yani our brothers amongst the jinn. Ta'am ikhwanina minal jinn. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned this in a hadith. So it is not permissible for us to use bones, number 1. Number 2, wa ta'amil adami, ta'amin li adamiyin aw bahimatin, to use any food for that is consumed by human beings and animals. So it is not permissible for us to use vegetables, things that we can eat, carrots, salad, all these things to use for istinja. It is not permissible. Likewise, he mentioned types of food, and also wa khazaf, yani this is a type of pebbles that are soft, that are soft. Wa faham is like charcoal. This is not permissible for us to use any istinja. Wa zujaj, this is glass, of the fear that a person might harm himself. Wa jis, and it is like a kind of marble. This is not any permissible. Wa shay'in muhtaram, likewise it is not permissible to use something that is respected. Ka khirqati dibaj, like this silk, because this is expensive, and to use it is a waste. Wa cotton, likewise cotton is a material that is used for clothing. So using for istinja will make it dirty and unsuitable to be used for wearing again. So all these things are things that will it is based on tabzir, that a person is wasting his money using any expensive things to perform this istinja, because in istinja can be done with simple things, with stones, tissue paper, toilet paper, and so on and so forth. Wa bil yadil yumna, it is to do any istinja with the right hand, illa min uzrin, except if a person is not able to do istinja with the left hand, then he do istinja with the right hand. Like a person for example, his left hand is cut off, then in this situation he got no choice except to use his right hand. So these are some of the things the author mentioned, the author mentioned that it is makruh. Then he goes on to speak about the etiquettes. Adab qada'il haja. Number 1, an yudkhal al-khala bi rijlihi al-yusra. It is a sunnah that a person enters the toilet with the left leg, and this is based on the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, which many of us know, and all of us inshallah we have been practicing this. All these things are not easy to learn. Once we learn, it is all about application. Every day we enter into the toilet, and every day we make sure that we enter into the toilet with our left leg. It becomes an ibadah. We get rewards from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number 2, wa yasta'iz billah minash shaitanir rajim qabla dukhulihi. We say a'udhu billahi as-sami' alim minash shaitanir rajim. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika minal khubthi wal khaba'is. As what is narrated by Imam Tirmidhi. We ask Allah for protection minal khubthi wal khaba'is, from the devil, the females and the males. Wa yajlisa mu'tamidan ala yasarihi. This is a sunnah that we bend towards our left, so that it makes the najasa, the filth, easy to be removed from our body. So it is a sunnah to sit down in this manner, to squat, and to lean on the left side. Now all this are sunnah. Wala yatakallam, and we do not speak while we are in the toilet. So these are so many etiquettes. We prevent ourselves from speaking, especially when the filth is coming out. Makruhatu qada'il haja. The author speaks about the things that are makruh. When a person is urinating or defecating. Number one, wa yukrahu istiqbalul qibla. It is makruh for a person to do so while facing the qibla. While facing the qibla, wastidbaruha, or he faces the back of the qibla. Yani the back faces the qibla. So it's not permissible to face the qibla and our back not towards the qibla. Walau fil bunyan, even if a person is in a building, meaning in a toilet that we have today, it is enclosed. So in the Hanafi madhab, the author is inclined to the opinion that walau fil bunyan, yani even if a person is in a concealed place. Whereas in our mother al-Imam Shafi'i, we mentioned, for example, in Muqaddimah Hadramiyah, that if a person is in bunyan, this ruling doesn't apply. This apply to a person who is in the desert, for example. There's nothing in front of him. So if it's not permissible for him to face the qibla. But there are differences amongst the scholars whether does it mean facing the qibla in a cubicle or not in a cubicle or in a building. Al-Imam Tirmidhi, for example, he in Sunan al-Tirmidhi, if you look in the first few chapters in Sunan, he quoted the words of Al-Imam Shafi'i. Al-Imam Shafi'i, he interpreted the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam on facing the qibla. He mentioned that if a person is in the building, then that ruling does not apply. But here we find differences amongst the ulama, so we have to understand it is better for us to go out of all differences. So if our house or in a place for example facing the qibla, we try our best to shift a bit, correct or not, so that we do not face the qibla, even we are in the enclosed toilet. Number two was istiqbalu ayni shams. This is only pertaining to a person is in an open desert, not in an enclosed area. To face the sun, wal qamar, to face the moon, wa mahabbari, to face the place where the wind is blowing, direction where the wind is blowing. Because if a person is urinating, for example, in that direction, when the wind comes what happen? The urine might be splashing into him. Certain places the wind is very strong. So it is not a sunnah to face this direction of the wind. Wa yukrahu ayyabula aw yatarawwata fil ma'i. It is makruh to urinate or defecate in water. Because why? Because we contaminate the water. This is with regards to a little amount of water that can be contaminated because of us. Wadil, it is also makruh to urinate and defecate at a shelter. Because why? These are the places where people take any shelter. We will harm them by dirtying the place. Wal johor, the reason is that we might harm the animals inside the johor. Johor is a hole. It's a hole. So normally there are animals inside. So sometimes small animals, we will cause harm to the small animals, or large animals we will be harmed by them. So certain holes they are python, they are, for example, snakes. So out of here, that if a person urinates inside, this will make the animal come out and hurt that person. Watariq, it is also makruh to to do it at the way, at the roadside, at the road where people are walking, even the road that we are having today, because there are hadiths of the Prophet that the Prophet prevent that we do it in these places, because it will cause harm to people. Wa tahta shajaratin musmira, we also have the hadith about shajara musmira, a tree that is bearing fruits. So it is makruh to do it under the tree, because these are the places where people usually sit down and eat from the fruits, and also it will make the food contaminated with our filth. So it is not permissible. Wal bawlu qa'iman, it is also makruh to urinate while standing up. Why? Because this will become the reason that the splashes of the urine hit our clothes. And there is a hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that one of the reason that people are punished in the graves, la yastanzihu min al bawl, because he does not protect himself from the splashing of urine, and this becomes the reason. So that is why ulama mentioned it is not permissible illa min udhrin, unless if a person is in a state where he that doesn't have any ability, for example, to urinate except was standing, because the whole place is full of filth, for example, then it is permissible. Adabul khuruj min al khala, then the author mentioned the etiquette of exiting the toilet. Wa yakhruju min al khala bi rijlihi al yumna. So this is the opposite of entering the toilet. We enter the toilet with our left leg, we go out with our right leg. Tamam. Number 2, summa yaqul alhamdulillahi alladhi adhaba anni al adha wa afani. We read this particular dua, and this dua also narrated by Imam Tirmidhi. Alhamdulillahi alladhi adhaba anni al adha wa afani. All praise be to Allah who has removed from me harmful things and blessed me with health. Afani. Wallahu alam bis sawab. We have completed the chapter on istinja. The next chapter we will enter into faslun fil wudu. We'll speak about ablution inshallah ta'ala next week. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.